So we thought a lot about the title of this event, and we couldn't help but think that technology is really not about hardware or software, it's ideally about you, and hence the title UNITS. And I figured that the right place to start is to talk about what we don't want to be, okay? And we don't want to be a dinosaur. And this is something that's been spoken about extensively at a number of IT director forums across the country, like Norded and Corded. And I think everyone realizes that IT has to become more about you. And I'd like to think, and Kathy's echoed this sentiment, that over the course of the last year, we've put in place a number of strategies to deal with this here at URW. So what is it about? Well, Kathy pointed to these topics. It's about connected. It's about being digital. And we think that we've got a lot of stuff in our cupboard of stuff to present to you which aligns to that. It's about providing enduring relationships. Technology on its own is really quite useless. You want people to understand its value. And if we can create these connections between parties, then technology and society will benefit. It's about sustainability. We want to make it so that IT in this institution is sustainable from a technology perspective, but at the same time helps the institution itself be sustainable in terms of the way it functions. And finally, the bottom line is technology in an environment like this supports the notion of innovation. And we think we've got some great stuff to show today which ties to this idea. We speak a lot about values in ITS, primarily because it helps set the tone of the conversation unit and define a culture for how we want to work. And again, just to reiterate, these are our core values. Our job is to support you, to give you help when you need it. 11 o'clock at night, 1 a.m. in the morning, which sometimes happens, good or bad, we're here to support you. Our job is to give you great counsel, not just, some, information. Our job is to sit with you, understand your problem, and give you really robust counsel. And our job is to really help you do what you need to do. We're enabling agents. We are effectively partners. And we think that these form a key component of the ITS DNA. So, that's enough of that stuff. Let's have a bit of a report card on where we've been tracking over the course of last year. So there are probably 4 areas that need to be mentioned. We've been doing a lot of work internally on strategy. There's been a lot of discussions at varying levels of ITS about how we want ITS to look in the course of the next few years. And I think in the not too distant future, you'll see some great outcomes there. We have had a large number of outcomes this year. Our staff have been working behind the scenes, delivering on project after project, and I'll speak to some of them in a moment. We've been innovating. We've been doing things that we don't generally do, a lot more this year than we have in the past. For example, Philip Ogunbono a little while ago wanted a tool so he could communicate with a large number of academics across campus on digital environments. He asked, he got. This is something very different for us to do. And finally, we've been much more open and transparent. We've been publishing a lot more about what we've been up to. We've been reporting a lot more to the institution. And we've been trying to create this understanding of contemporary topics in computing. And as I said before, we've delivered some really big outcomes this year. IBIS, Market View, is a great one that was done early in the year. We had a very narrow period of time to get this executed. And ITS, across all business units in ITS, had a stake in this. So it just demonstrates the pulling power and the cohesiveness of the organisation. We've been doing timesheet stuff with admin. So Kronos, ITS worked behind the scenes to deliver and execute that initiative. And again, that demonstrates partnership, innovation, and it demonstrates this notion of advice. And as I said before, our reporting is just really transparent. The way we want to posture ITS is out there for you all to see. I'm hoping today you'll see an extension of that. So, let's start. Beginning. You know, some of us spend a lot of time travelling to other institutions. The Innovation Campus, USyd, Stanford, whatever it may be. We all seem to have one problem, however, and that is connectivity. How do you make it so that the experience of connecting to a network to send mail, to browse the web, actually works? Now, there's a lot in this space that needs to be sorted, but we're being progressively sorting out problem after problem. The first one is just the point of connectivity. So when you take a look at this space, home is an interesting environment. Our experiences at home largely inform what we expect technology to be like in the enterprise. And so at our home, we have wireless, we can browse the net, we can print to printers, and we can watch TV through the net. This is what we expect today. And it's not surprising that this has moved into the workplace. It's moved into the way we and our students want to work. And so this is a picture of a student browsing the net on her MacBook Pro, which is very important, okay? Outside on the lawns. We expect people to do this. This is just the way it should be. So what have we done? Well, let's talk a bit about the model of how this all works. You've got a computer, and hopefully there's wireless around you. Here at URW, there's very good wireless coverage. And the combination of that with your URW username and password gives you access to our network. So you can access all our services and all our facilities as you deem appropriate. But the question that arises now is, well, what if I go somewhere else? That's good. Somewhere else may not be so good. So again, I've got my computer, I'm using another institution's wireless, and how do I authenticate? How do I join that network? I know I have a URW username and password, but I don't have one at USyd or Stanford or wherever else it may happen to be. So the net effect of that is no access to USyd's network. No good. I'm in the dark. I don't have access to my mail. It's very sad. For me, it would be. So, what's the solution to this? Well, there is a consortium, a partnership between institutions to form an entity called EduRoam. And EduRoam was born many, many years ago to allow it so that regardless of the institution you come from, you can get connectivity. And so the way it works is you have your wireless and you have your computer. You have your URW username and password. And regardless of where you are, whether it be CSIRO, ANSTO, USyd, Uni Melbourne, UTAS, RMIT, whatever it may be, it just works. My partner and I went on a holiday to Tasmania a little while ago, and everywhere we went where there was EduRoam, we used it. It was great. And she was less than pleased, but you get the general idea. So the connectivity just works, and it's not that hard. So let's do a bit of a demo. Oops. Okay. What I have here is an iPad. And this is my personal iPad, which spends a lot of time with me. And what I want to do is use the net. Well, if I go to settings, let's pretend for a moment that I'm from UQ. And I have a UQ username and password, which I have here. If I go to Wi-Fi, if I go to Wi-Fi, you'll see here a network called EduRoam. If I click on it, it asks me for my username and password. So I'm going to type in my username. So it's UQJNDR3 at uq.edu.au. And I'll type in my password. Not my password. It asks me to accept a certificate. And I'm now connected to EduRoam in the next second or two, sometime today. Well, I stole this actually from someone at UQ. Oh, they wouldn't. They would have, so the way it works is this. You at URW, if you go to UQ, you would use your URW username and password, and you'll join their network seamlessly. That's fine. It's qualified at your home institution. You use your home institution's username and password. So roger@urw.edu.au with your password. So that's still doing what it's doing. And eventually, if I go to Safari, and I go to a website like apple.com, it's not going to work because there's too much wireless noise in here, I'm guessing. So it would normally work. It's just...
We have evidence it does work.
So the reason it doesn't work is because you all have mobile phones which are trying to use the wireless network. So Steve Jobs had a dilemma at this once at a major event. So it's debuted again. So in terms of how this all works, the idea is you use your home institution's username and home institution's password, for example, pato@urw.edu.au, and when Pato next goes to Tasmania, if he happens to be walking past UTAS, he can use his URW username and password to log on to the net and browse seamlessly. That will work in every institution that is an Eduroam member, and there are a lot of them. In fact, nearly every university in Australia now, and internationally as well. Now, we like to help people, so we produce some beautiful content for you to browse on the ITS website. This is what the website looks like, and we believe that the best way to present things is by actually having video. So we produce videos of how you can use Eduroam on each of the major platforms. macOS, iOS, Windows, XP, and 7. It's all there for you to browse. And it's really easy to use. There is no written literature at all. So you can find it at that location, and many of you have got a flyer which has got that URL. Go check it out when you get some spare time. And I guess the important thing to say here is it's available today. You can start using it today. So if you go to another institution in the next few days, give it a shot. And if you need help, call ITS. Okay. Changing gears. So computers. So computers on their own are pretty boring. Computers run software called an operating system, and that operating system acts as our interface to get the computer to do magical things. Now, one of the most popular and operating systems on the market at the moment is the Windows series. Now, I've labelled this section completing the puzzle because we in ITS have been moving the URW computing platform towards Windows 7. But behind the scenes, we've been doing some stuff to recognise other parts of the community. I wonder what that could be. So, this is Windows 7, Windows 7 Desktop. For those of you who don't have it, you will get it shortly over the course of the next 6 months, perhaps less. And the reason why we've gone to Windows 7 is because it does a number of great things that people really don't appreciate. For example, it's really fast. And it's fast because it's what we call a 64-bit operating system. And that's a good thing. It breathes fresh air into otherwise older hardware. You can do so much more with it. It gives you a fairly elegant user interface. It looks really good. You can search for things and find things a lot easier than what you could have done in the past. But the most important thing that we've done with Windows 7 at URW is we've made it so that you can download applications and packages for yourself. We've introduced this notion of self-service, and the feedback we received to date has been very positive in this space. And we think self-service is an underlying idea in IT looking forward. So, what about your data? We've had to make a few hard decisions with how we store data when it comes to Windows 7. Previously, people stored data on their hard disks, and it magically got backed up. The reality of it all is that's an unsustainable activity. What we've done is we've said we want you to focus on putting your data, the important data, in your network directory, your H drive. We call it a home directory internally, a personal workspace. Until now, that home space was 5 gig in size. Well, we are pleased to announce today that 5 gig isn't enough anymore, and we're doubling it to 10. And depending upon the utilization, we'll review this in the course of the next few months. So this is a good thing for you to store important stuff, not games or illegal content. Now, it'd be remiss of me not to mention other platforms. Just to remind everyone, the university does have macOS in its staple of stuff that we support. Now, the thing to note here is where an appropriate business case is, we can provision it. But we're missing something. macOS and Windows aren't the only operating systems on the market. There's a lot more. In fact, we're missing this guy called Tux. Okay? And Tux, for those of you who know, has been a long-term advocate of the open source community. He is, I guess, the father of Linux. And so we're very pleased to report today that ITS will be supporting Linux finally. Okay? We will be allowing people to, you know, spot the geeks in the audience. We'll be allowing people, individuals, to download Linux images to their machines and use them as they see fit. Now, the support from ITS will be the provision of the image and the deployment of the image, but we don't really have the structures in our shop at this particular point in time to support the actual operating system. However, we believe there is sufficient support across the campus and across a whole variety of entities to help people out in this space. Now, we're labeling this as basically try it, break it, download it, do it again. Once bitten, try again. If you break it, no problem. It's not going to break anything. We really want people to experiment with this platform. And you can do that today. Now, we have visions. A lot of people come to us and say, we want to have a Linux server to offer a particular service. Well, over the course of next year, our roadmap for this allows us to deliver what we call virtual private hosting. Okay? And we will be looking at finding a way to allow it so that if you need a Linux box to run a survey tool or a questionnaire tool, then we can provision it relatively quickly. In fact, lazy computer scientists are the best. Ideally, we'd like to make it so that it's fully automated. So, download it, try it, break it, try it again. You can do that today. And the only caveat here is to get started, you need to call us. So call ITS support, and they can help guide you through these waters, which is a great thing. So, moving on. People have got a bucket load of devices. The average student today, according to a recent Gartner survey, carries, on average, 3.2 mobile devices. Laptop, iPhone, iPad, plus whatever else they may happen to have. Perhaps multiple iPads or multiple iPhones. And so there's an expectation in the community that people begin to use their own devices to connect to university services or do their work. And in the industry, we label this phenomena BYOD, bring your own device. Now, we've been looking at this under the radar. And we have a lot of thoughts here. We think that this is a long-term journey. But I think it's important to show you what we've actually been up to. So hopefully this will work sensibly. I will rejoin University Wireless Network. So I have an iPad here, and this is my personal iPad. I will go back to my settings and join the wireless network. Not that network. So hopefully this will work for me today. So So Daniel's iPad, Daniel wants to do URW work, but he doesn't have a URW laptop. What's he to do? Well, Daniel has installed an app called VMware View. And he goes to it, and he's going to simply say, reconnect to his computer in the University of Wollongong data center. So he reconnects to it, he accepts all the prompts, he types in his password. Don't look at my password. I will. And what happens is, on his iPad now, he will have let me get this right, Windows 7. So you can go to IE. It's fairly responsive. I'm not going to go to outside. I'm just going to go cancel, go away. And he's going to bring up the keyboard. He's going to go to www.uow.edu.au. He's going to put that away. And there you have it. So this is the preliminary thinking of accessing URW on effectively a URW computer through your mobile device, whether it be iPad, Android, your own personal laptop, phone, whatever it may be. And also, the very important note that I'm being prompted on down here is file shares. You can access your file shares remotely, sensibly.
Or your H drive.
Your H drive, effectively. Okay. So, let's move on. The cloud. Cloud's an interesting area that you hear a lot of in the press. And we have begun the journey of taking cloud services up at URW quite some time ago. Students have used external cloud email services like Microsoft. We have a number of our enterprise services, like SafetyNet, hosted outside in the cloud. We are all consumers of cloud services, whether it be iTunes or Gmail or whatever else it may happen to be. So what's the next step for us? Well, the next step for us is to look at email. Historically, URW has had a service which allows people to send really big files to external participants, or external collaborators send big files to us, called ShareFile. And we've dealt with that reasonably well, but the time has come to look at the new world. And in the new world, we've partnered with an entity called RNet, which is responsible for providing us with our internet connection. And we're now advocating the use of a service called CloudStor. And CloudStor allows you to send really large files, up to 100 gig in size, to anyone outside. At the same time, we're advocating your external collaborators use this service where it makes sense. In addition to this, we're also beginning the journey of talking about cloud-based services and some of the considerations you should make when deciding to use them.
Power cable, please.
Do we happen to have a power supply here? Thanks, David. That's the right one. No, it's not the right one. Huh? I need a one. All right, well, I will go through my slides by scaling them. All right. So hopefully someone will bring me a power supply, right? So, what we've done is we have made it so that we have got a service called Cloud Store, which you can all use. And at the same time, we've begun the discussion of using external services like Dropbox and SendFile to allow you to do this easily. We've produced a very pretty website for you to use, which you can browse at any time. And so we suggest you check it out, and the URL for that service is on your website, is on our website, and also in the literature you have. The last thing we want to talk about before we wrap it up is academic computing. And what we've done is made significant inroads in this space. This year, we have begun pushing forward many of our views into what academics want in the academic computing space. And we've been spending a lot of time talking to the community. So, we've invested a lot in high-performance computing. This year, we spent $100,000 on huge computers to help the scientists in our organisation solve complex problems. And for the geeks in the audience, we've now got an additional 384 CPU cores, 1.5 terabytes of memory, and another, not 40 gig, which should be 40 terabytes of storage space. And this is a good thing for UOW. Thanks. So this is a good thing. Bear with me for a second. So, moving on, apps. There's a lot going on in the mobile ecosystem. A lot of kids, a lot of academics, a lot of professionals are writing apps in their spare time. And there's a whole industry out there now focusing on entrepreneurship. And so we have events like Hackathon, which happened last weekend, occurring, focused on people developing apps and content. So, what are we doing in this space? Well, we've been looking at this for a little while, and the first thing that we want to put on the table is a sensible platform for people to publish their apps. We want to create an environment that allows you to showcase your apps here at UOW. These may be apps you publish commercially on iTunes. These may be apps that you develop for internal purposes, whatever. And we're working behind the scenes on a framework to facilitate this across the organisation. But we've got this to share with you right now, because over the course of the last year, we have been developing a lot of apps. And so, just to give you a bit of a demo as to the calibre of these applications, I will bring up my iPad again. And I'll show you one. We spent a lot of time working with people in health and behavioural sciences and anatomy and a few other entities across campus about modelling our anatomy lab for use on an iPad. So this is UOW's virtual anatomy application, which is about to be published in the iTunes store. It's beautiful. You go in, you scroll around, UOW's anatomy lab, pick an object. Let's have a look at the digestive system. Pick a part of the digestive system, and you can look at various cross-sections of the objects. Students are using this app. In semester 1 and semester 2, we had close to 400 downloads of this app by UOW students. We also had a lot of people from the outside world download that app, which is a good thing too. And the funny thing about this application is it was developed by a student. So it gives you some insight into what these kids are capable of with the appropriate resourcing and support. In terms of the environment, we've made it really easy for you. You simply go to apps.uow, and it looks like a real application. There's a lovely banner, and the banner changes to every application we have published. You find the application you're interested in. For example, I don't know, border auth, which allows me to authenticate with the University of Wollongong border. This is a Windows application. You click on the store. Because we've published it on the Windows Store, it's there for everyone to use. This is effectively an aggregation point for many apps we're working on. That said, though, there are some tools that we've developed that are only for internal consumption. And where that's the case, we protect the university's right to retain ownership and control of it. So the Anatomy Lab is no longer available for free to anyone outside of UOW. So when you click on Install, maybe not there. Thank you. So now when I click onto that and click on Install, it asks you for your UOW username and password. And I just want to repeat that again because I think that's pretty cool. When you click on the button, it drops down the modal and actually does it nicely. And this is all done in HTML. So this is really nice and elegant. It looks beautiful. Okay? And so this is stuff that we're trying to do to contribute to this space. Now this is available as beta, and what that means is it's an experiment. So we really appreciate people having a look at it in their spare time, mucking around and giving us some feedback. So you can try it by simply visiting apps.uow.edu.au.